This is my introduction to Sailing Wilson on YouTube. I'm Captain Wannabe Ian. Yes, I do have a sailing certificate. In fact, I have two. Whether I can sail or not is another story. I own a 2013 Island Spirit catamaran, 38 foot in length, and I really love my boat. I'm sure you've heard this before, but please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and push on the notification bell. That'd help a lot. By the way, please share my videos with other people you know. I'm currently on the hard stand at Rebec Island Shipyard, which is in the top middle of the photograph. Rebec Island is a resort island just off the main island of Langkawi in Malaysia. Here's a Google Earth image of my boat just beside the blue dot on the hard stand, and here's a photograph of my boat just after I finished putting the copper coat on. I've still got a lot of work to do. This video is about painting my engines in my haul out report so far, part 28. It's been 40 years since I pulled an engine apart and rebuilt it. Diesels I've never touched, so I employed the services of Robbie Anderson from Anderson Marine Services on Rebec Island. Here's a photograph of Skinny Andrew and Mr. Muscle, Robbie Anderson, both ultra fit. If you pause this, you can get some detailed information about Anderson Marine Services. Using my trusty 6 horsepower air compressor, best thing I've ever done. I used Hammerite metal paint, a copper finish, to give it the first coat on the engines, the sail drives and all the parts. And I'm using the smaller one of my two spray guns because I was having trouble with the larger one, but now I've realised that the larger one didn't like the paint that I was using before. But anyway, this little gun took a lot longer, but it was able to get into the little nooks and crannies, and I was quite happy with a 200 ringgit little spray gun with a bottle on top, so that I could enjoy the ease of a smaller gun. So again, that was a great purchase. Here you can see the comparison of the bare metal and all the blemishes that came with grinding out the rust and getting rid of the old paint. And slowly but surely you'll see the comparison with the copper first coat. Now, once the copper was on, I couldn't quite see where the areas that I've missed because my eyes aren't that great, and it wasn't until the second coat I used a silver that I was able to see a lot better. So what we did was taped up all the piping and areas that shouldn't have got spray in, and I wasn't so pedantic about that, but at least I followed Robbie's advice most of the time. After all, he is the professional mechanic. And you can see the blue tape around the parts that I didn't want affected by the paint, and the plastic covering the wiring, and the sockets on the wiring. Now, I used a brush on the smaller parts, or some of the smaller parts, and I wasn't happy at all with the finish, and it was all lumpy and didn't work out well at all. So using the spray gun made it 10 times better than using the brush. I wasn't that good at the brush. So all the parts laid out on the bench ready for the first and second coats. So after the first coat of Hammerite smooth copper finish, you can see that really nice finish. On the bell housing you can see the blemishes of the first coat, and the second coat covered that up without a problem. And it's also the second coat covered up the areas I missed. And here I am sitting there finishing off one of the engines. Again, in this video you can see the poor quality finish of the brushed on copper. By that stage I'd ran out of the copper hammerite, so I changed over to the silver hammerite that Robbie Anderson got for me, and it was a lot better. Now here I am turning the sail drive top mount around on the wire, a piece of stainless steel wire that I thought was okay, but unfortunately as I continued it broke away and fell on the ground and actually chipped some of the aluminium casting. And notice I'm using a face mask and gloves, very safe practice. So here I am finishing off spraying the silver hammerite onto the top of the sail drive mounting, and being 68 years of age it was really hard to stand up and stretch out after sitting down for a while. I really love this hammerite silver grey, direct to the rust. It's great. Here's a close-up video of me doing the other bell housing, I think they're called, using the smaller gun. You can see how difficult it was to use the smaller gun, but it clearly saved a lot of paint compared to using the bigger gun, which drank it. But I was quite happy with the way these spray guns and the air compressor did the job. As I said, the hammerite silver turned out a lot better than on the spray gun than it did on the hand painting, and I was very impressed. This was only the second coat, and the silver, or grey if you want to call it that, hid the blemishes a lot better than the copper did, although the copper was just as good putting it on or applying it. And here is the finished second coat on the engines and sail drive gearbox, if you want to use the term. And I was very excited and happy of how it turned out. And here are some of the smaller parts that I did on the second coat. You'll notice that I've hung them on a gallows, and that was a good idea as well. I didn't get paint all over myself like I normally did, and the starter motors turned out okay. I made the mistake of forgetting to tape up one of the raw water pump bearing slots, so I'll have to clean that up. Again, I've forgotten the name of these, but the second coat went on good. And here are some of the smaller items that I didn't hang, painted with the second coat. So then I moved on to painting the engines and the other parts with the silver top coat, and was really impressed with how this lightweight silver flowed on using the bigger gun. I've had trouble in the past with blockages on using other paints through inexperience, of course, but this stuff went on really well, and it got all the nooks and crannies. And because I was using the bigger pot, I could turn the gun upside down, or not quite upside down, and get in much better. And here again, I paid a little bit more attention to the mounts, the absorption mounts and the bell housing. You can see the tape on the inside of the bell housing protecting the shaft and seal. And again, you can see the tape as I spray the last engine with the final coat, I hope the final coat of the silver, light silver, as a finishing coat. So I'll ask Robbie Anderson for advice whether I put on a second coat of the top coat to give it some strength, but I don't want to put it on if it's going to smudge or make it lumpy, because the finish turned out really, really good. So here you go with all the parts hanging on the gallows after I'd painted the second coat on, and you can see the finish. If you pause the video, you can see the finish turned out really, really great. So here you can, if you pause the video, you'll see what I mean. I'm really excited and very happy with the finished job that I did. After all, I haven't sprayed for 40 years and I'm getting old, and it was quite a task for me to do 7-hour days for the last week while I've been trying to keep up to Robbie Anderson and his young fit companion Andrew to get these jobs done before they started to rebuild parts and put the engines back in the boat. The video was produced by myself, and it's the end of another exciting video of painting the engines in my haul out progress report so far, part 28 at Reback Island Shipyard.